The latest that is coming in from France, officials have identified the suspected mastermind of the Paris attack. Now, he's been identified as a Belgian national, Abdul Hamid Aboud. The suspected mastermind was linked to several attacks in the past, attacks that were attempted in the past or planned in the past on trains and churches. India Today's Smita Sharma now joins me with the latest. Smita, take it away. What more do we know of this suspected mastermind?
You know, there are some slightly reports that variation here, Gaurav, as far as the name of the mastermind is concerned. While according to some of the press, the name of this person is Saleh Abdul Salam, but he's also been named as Abdul Hamid Aboud. What we do know for sure is that this person, who was 26 years of age, was born in Belgium, and there are actually three brothers who are in this terror attack of Friday. One of the brothers, in fact, Mohammed Abdul Salam, has reportedly been arrested. He has been
Smita,
arrested.
stay with me for a moment. France is making that very clear distinction. This is not a war on Muslims in France, but those who aid, abet and indoctrinate terrorists will be put in jail, will be put under arrest. Tell us a little more about the mastermind of these terror attacks.
Well, clearly, you know, France, of course, has that diverse ethnic community as well, Gaurav. If you were to travel to the suburbs, you would see people with all sorts of links, Algerians, Moroccans, who have made France their home for years now. You know, families who have stayed here for generations, even South Asians. So while we have had these sensitive situations when France imposed, remember, that burqa ban of sorts there was, but they do not want to enter into a situation where it's a kind of a hamster, where they get, you know, the situation backfires, because the more they clamp down upon specific communities and target them, perhaps there will be more anger and anguish that needs to be dealt with. But yes, those who perpetrate terrorism, they need to be dealt with an iron hand. As far as the mastermind is concerned, what we do know is, you know, this man, all of 26, was born in Belgium, and there are three brothers really. He lost one of the brothers at the Bataclan theatre. That was a jihadi who blew himself up. The other brother has recently been arrested in Belgium. Four of the attackers, of course, died in those various attacks across 6 sites, including pizzerias, cafeterias in this French capital. And the police are making sure that they conduct all sorts of raids across the suburbs, across the southern parts of Paris, as well as the bordering towns, rounding up people who are under suspect and who have been on the police radar for any links to extremism as well. Gaurav?
Okay, now you are on ground. There is fear. Yesterday, when people assembled to pay homage, there was a firecracker that went off and hundreds of people ran. So there is fear on the street. But is there also suspicion when it comes to select localities and people of select origin? Because France is very clearly divided into, select areas belong to select people, as people say.
That would be right to say that, Gaurav. You know, yes, tempers are kind of pretty fragile at the moment. The atmosphere continues to be sensitive. People trying to show their resilience, display their strength on the face of this calamity, on the face of these terror strikes. But at the same time, somewhere perhaps, given the fact that from Charlie Hebdo to now, we have also seen some terror strikes happen across, through the year in various parts. Many of them were actually lone wolf attacks. Some of them owed allegiance to certain ideologies, to certain sections, but were not really working in tandem or in coordination. So while these attacks have managed to shake people, there are people who are traumatized, who are thinking twice about stepping out of home. There are also those who just want to come out of home just to make a point. Yesterday we saw a certain local group, who were arguing about Turkey's politics, and that seemed to grow suddenly very fragile and sensitive, and eventually the police had to come running and intervene. At one point, we were, in fact, faced in a lockdown situation. Both my colleague Lavina Tandon and myself, we were just very close to Bataclan Theatre when suddenly there was a lot of silence that could be heard in the area. Police came running and they asked people to seek shelter because there was a rumor doing the rounds that some shootout was happening nearby. So we got inside the restaurant, the shutters came down, the lights were switched off, and we were all in a duck down position for the next 5 to 7 minutes only once it was clear that that was a misinformation that people actually stepped out of the restaurant. So
Now,
yes,
there's a
the
very
biggest
big
impression
point.
that
There's a
people
very
come out-
big point that the French interior minister is making, that France will expel radical imams from France. And this is something that England did after 7/7 and 21/7 London bombings. They expelled radical imams. Now France is saying they intend to do the same. What they're also saying is 104 people will be put under house arrest, because those are people who are suspect in that country. Tell us more about the radical Muslim imams who are being expelled.
Well, Gaurav, for that we will have to do a little more homework, because clearly, while there are several imams to be brushing everybody with this, to be painting every of these mosques out here with the same paint would be very, very unfair to a large community. But clearly, there are mosques here which have been alleged, which have been on the radar for the French police, where they have found, in fact, radical jihadi material being propagated. But remember, de-radicalization is such a huge challenge for in the entire global community today, Gaurav. You need not be registered in a mosque to get radicalized. Radicalization material, propaganda material is just so freely available on the internet. How do you clamp down on the internet? How do you clamp down on the social sites to avoid radicalization of youth? How do you lead to de-radicalization? There are several returnees amongst the European fighters who have joined the ranks of ISIS. How do you keep a tab on everyone and make sure that eventually they don't act in a local capacity, in an individual capacity? These are all challenges facing the international community, and no one country, I would say, is isolated from these threats today.
Oh, spot on. And on that note, I want to quickly cut across to England. Smita, stay with me for a moment. There is breaking news that is coming in. Big revelation 2 days after this devastating Paris terror attacks. It now comes to light that the UK has foiled a big terror plot on its soil. Now, it's now been revealed by the spokesperson of the UK Prime Minister, David Cameron. David Cameron's spokesperson has confirmed that British security services have foiled a terror attack on British soil. Smita, my colleague with me on this. Smita, tell us more about how the British foiled a French 26/11 kind of a terror attack.
Sketchy details now, but Gaurav, remember, just the recent last few days that we are talking about, I was in London myself, because there was that ongoing bilateral visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we saw how Britain laid out that red carpet for Mr. Narendra Modi. Even as he addressed the Parliament, he went on to unveil, the Gandhi statues, the iconic monuments being lit up in tricolors, even as there were protesters that that stormed Parliament Square, opposing Mr. Modi's presence on various grounds. But clearly the British police too have been, of course, alert and making sure that a lot of these, most of the time what we report in media is about terror strikes that happen. But a lot of time these terror strikes that are averted and are huge, in fact, intelligence successes that go unreported. So perhaps once they come into the public domain, it also helps build a little bit of public confidence. These are the times when we are seeing all these world leaders emerge for two very important summit meetings. As we talk, there is that ongoing G20 summit in Turkey. Just yesterday, we saw one of the alleged ISIS bombers, blow himself off at the southern Turkey area, killing of 4 personnel, in the process. So in Turkey too, while the focus was to be on trade, the tone and tenor is now focused on the issue of terrorism and how to deal with it. Similarly, in Paris, we have that upcoming COP21 summit end of this month, for which world leaders will once again emerge here. So yes, I would say perhaps all these major countries and their intelligence agencies continuously on the alert. Gaurav?
Smita, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. That big story that's coming in from Paris at this moment. 104 radicals to be placed under house arrest. Several imams will be deported from France. That's the Interior Minister coming on record to say radical elements will not be permitted to stay in France after that terror attack.
जहाँ तक यादें याद आती रहेगी।